You're exhausted, and maybe you don't even have a clear reason why. It's not just physical tiredness, it's deeper. It's that constant, invisible weight you've been carrying. That pressure to keep everything in balance, to keep the peace, to smile, to nod, to be agreeable, polite, patient. You've been trained to hold it all together, keep people happy, avoid conflict at all costs. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that being a good person was the ultimate goal, that kindness wins, that if you treat others well, they'll treat you the same, that being fair, honest, and humble would eventually get you the recognition, the respect, the love you deserve. But here's the question no one wants to ask. What if that was all a lie? A comforting lie, a story designed to keep you predictable, obedient, easy to manage. How many times have you kept your mouth shut just to avoid an argument? How many times have you swallowed your pride, your anger, your pain, and said, "It's okay," when it really wasn't? How often have you put yourself last, again and again, just to keep others comfortable? Let's be honest. The world doesn't reward kindness, it rewards strategy. If you're watching this, it's probably because you've already started to notice that. You've tried being the good guy, the understanding friend, the forgiving one. You've bent over backward trying to be accepted. And what did it get you? Less respect, less appreciation, less value. And that's where Machiavelli enters the picture. Not as the villain people make him out to be, but as someone who dared to tell the truth about power. He understood what most people don't want to admit. That morality, if it's disconnected from reality, is a trap. That being good is not the same as being effective, not the same as being respected. In this video, we're going to strip away the filters. No fluff, no sugarcoating. Just a raw conversation about why trying to be good all the time is actually holding you back. And no, this isn't about becoming cruel or heartless. It's about waking up from the fantasy that the world is fair, that virtue alone is enough. Because as long as you're addicted to being liked, you're handing people the strings to control you. And if you're already tired of being overlooked, taken advantage of, discarded the moment you stop serving others, then maybe it's time to learn what no one ever taught you. Maybe it's time to take your power back. So ask yourself, who really gets ahead in this world? Is it the kindest, the most generous, the ones who always say yes? Or is it the assertive, the confident, the ones who set boundaries and refuse to be manipulated? The answer is brutal, but it's right in front of you. The world doesn't run on kindness, it runs on usefulness. Machiavelli knew that. His book, The Prince, wasn't a guide for villains. It was a manual for survival. And one of the hardest truths he lays out is this: being good is not enough. In fact, it can make you disposable. You can be loyal. You can be kind. You can give your heart and expect nothing in return. But the day you're no longer useful to someone, you'll be ghosted, replaced, forgotten. And worst of all, the people who do it won't feel an ounce of guilt, because they weren't valuing your goodness, they were using your availability. The world measures value through impact, through influence, through presence. And you've seen this. The ones who get the mic, who take up space, who command respect, they aren't the ones always apologizing, always explaining themselves. They're the ones who say no when they mean no, who draw the line and don't feel guilty for it. That's the paradox. The more you try to be endlessly kind, the more you're treated like an option, like a tool. like a background character in your own life. You can keep trying to prove your worth by being agreeable. But if people don't see consequence in crossing you, they won't hesitate to do it. It's not because you're not good enough, it's because you're not seen as powerful. It's harsh, but it's real. Machiavelli famously said that a leader should aim to be feared if he can't be loved. What he meant wasn't to become some kind of tyrant. He meant that real respect comes from perceived power, from the sense that you won't be walked over without pushback, that you are someone who can act, who can decide, who won't just fade into the background. And yes, that applies to you too. If you live to please everyone, you'll never be seen as anything but replaceable. Not because you're not worthy, but because the world doesn't reward people who vanish themselves, who shrink, who always compromise. So where does this need to be accepted come from? Why do we bend ourselves into these shapes just to get approval? That's what we're going to dig into next. Because this addiction to being nice isn't actually about being good. It's about fear. And if you're honest, you probably feel it, that little tug in your gut every time you want to say no. But don't. That guilt when you think about disappointing someone. That anxiety about being seen as selfish or rude. Here's the truth. You weren't born like that. That mindset was taught, and even worse, it was conditioned from childhood. You learned that approval came with a cost, that in order to be liked, you had to trade pieces of yourself away. So you did. You forced the smiles. You bit your tongue. You softened your voice. You said it's fine when it wasn't. All in the name of being a good person. You were told, be nice. Don't talk back. Don't make a scene. Don't be selfish. And little by little, you shaped yourself into what everyone expected. But no one warned you that constantly trying to please others would slowly erase you. Because it's not kindness. It's survival. It's fear wearing a smile. You learned that if you made people happy, you'd be loved. And if you showed anger, said no, or stood your ground, you'd be rejected. So your mind did what it had to do, it adapted. The problem? That adaptation became submission. Now, maybe you don't even know how to say no without guilt. You feel like it's your job to keep everyone else comfortable even when it's breaking you. You feel everything, but keep it to yourself. You get walked on, but still forgive too quickly. You smile, but deep down, you're tired. That's not kindness, that's fear. The fear of being judged. The fear of being left out. The fear of being seen as bad for having needs, desires, boundaries a voice. And the worst part is, it's so familiar that you've started calling it empathy. Understanding. Compassion. But let's call it what it is. A mask. A strategy to avoid rejection, a way to stay safe. And that mask, it's suffocating you if you don't take it off. One day, you'll forget what your real face even looks like. You'll lose yourself trying to meet everyone else's expectations. But there is another way. And to walk that path, you need to learn from someone who understood perception better than anyone. Machiavelli. He knew how to turn appearance into power. And in the next section, we're going to talk about what the prince can teach you, not about how to be feared, but about how to finally be respected on your terms. Let me make something clear. If you're living your life hoping that people will notice how good you are, how fair, how loyal, how ethical, you need to stop. Because that path, while noble in theory, is dangerous in reality. It sets you up to be used, overlooked, replaced. Machiavelli warned about this over 500 years ago. He didn't say, don't have values. He said, don't be naive. In real life, it's not the good who win. It's the effective. And effectiveness requires strategy. It requires the courage to stop believing that people act out of appreciation for your goodness. They don't. People are moved by interest, by fear, by power dynamics, not virtue. In The Prince, Machiavelli writes, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are." That line should hit you in the gut. It cuts through the illusion we've been sold, that if you're genuine, people will feel it. That if you have a good heart, others will recognize it. But they don't. They respond to what they see. They react to your image, your energy, your presence. You might be the most principled person alive, but if you seem weak, you'll be treated like you don't matter. You might be filled with generosity, but if you don't inspire respect, you'll be ignored. And that's why you have to stop relying on inner virtue alone. The world doesn't operate on what's fair. It operates on what's perceived. This is where you become the prince. Yes, you. Anyone who wants to take command of their life must stop being naive. You need to know when to wear the mask and when to drop it. You need to appear virtuous when it's useful, but underneath, you have to be strategic. Machiavelli puts it in animal terms. He says the ideal leader must know how to act like both the fox and the lion. The fox is clever. It detects traps, avoids danger, moves in silence. The lion is bold. It inspires fear. It asserts its presence. He's not saying to be one or the other. He's saying, be both. See the manipulation before it comes and be strong enough to shut it down. Learn to read people, to calculate, to choose when to be soft and when to be firm. Don't just react, orchestrate. Do you want to be respected? Then listen carefully. Machiavelli's version of virtue is not the morality we're spoon-fed. It's not about being sweet or agreeable or endlessly patient. His virtue is a mixture of courage, intelligence, clarity, and restraint. It's knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to give and when to withhold, when to be calm and when to strike. And sometimes, appearing cold or even cruel is the only way to maintain your dignity. Not because you enjoy hurting others, but because you understand how to hold your ground. There's another quote from him. "A man who strives to be good all the time will come to ruin among the great number who are not good." You've lived this. You've been that person. You've tried to be good no matter the situation, and what did it get you? You got disrespected. You got silence. You got betrayal. Because people don't play fair. They play to win. And if you keep showing up expecting honesty, reciprocity, gratitude, you'll lose every time. But here's the key. This doesn't mean you have to become heartless. It doesn't mean you have to abandon your principles. It just means you stop letting them be used against you. Goodness is a beautiful thing, but only when it's chosen, not when it's exploited. You need to understand how your virtue is being seen and how it's being leveraged by others. Because in a world like ours, goodness without strength is just bait. Machiavelli wasn't encouraging cruelty. He was urging realism. He saw people for what they are, not what they say they are, but what they do. And that's why The Prince still matters. It's a blueprint for living with your eyes wide open. So maybe you're thinking, how do I balance all this? How do I stop being the doormat without becoming a monster? How do I stop being nice, but not lose my soul? Let's destroy the myth right now that your only options are to be good or cruel. That's a false choice. There's a middle path, and it starts with finally being honest with yourself. There's a dangerous lie floating around. That to be a good person, you have to be endlessly forgiving, quiet, accommodating, that you should accept everything in silence, never push back, and always swallow your discomfort just to keep the peace. That's not virtue. That's weakness dressed up like wisdom. And if you keep living like that, you'll spend your whole life being the emotional punching bag for everyone around you. True kindness doesn't require you to betray yourself. It requires clarity. It requires boundaries. Being good doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose when to give and when not to. You can be thoughtful, fair, and empathetic and still have sharp edges. Still command presence, still say no. Kindness without discernment isn't noble. It's desperate. And desperation is not respected, it's exploited. You've probably noticed this already. People who are overly kind, overly agreeable, they get taken for granted. Because they project a certain kind of neediness, a fear of rejection, a fear of not being liked. And predators smell that. Naivety believes that others will treat you the way you treat them. That if you give your best, people will reciprocate. But life doesn't work that way. Naivety is what keeps you stuck in toxic dynamics, waiting, hoping, giving, forgiving. Meanwhile, others take and take and take until there's nothing left. But real kindness, real strength, that's different. True kindness knows when to walk away. It knows that not everyone deserves your time, your trust, or your energy. It doesn't expect recognition or praise. It isn't performative. It's grounded, sharp, unapologetic. You can be kind and still be feared. You can be fair and still be powerful. You can have empathy without being exploited. You can be good, but also be a force. Machiavelli may seem cruel to modern eyes, but the truth is, he didn't hate virtue. He hated stupidity. He hated people who let their ideals blind them to reality. In his world and in this world, kindness without backbone is suicide. So ask yourself right now, is your kindness protecting you, or is it exposing you? Is it a shield or a leash? Because if your version of being good means enduring injustice, accepting scraps, and punishing yourself for feeling anger, then you're not being kind. You're being controlled. But there's another way, a powerful way, a path that allows you to be whole, to stay true to yourself, and still move through life with strength. That's what we'll break down next. We'll talk about how to stop being a nice guy without turning into someone bitter or fake. How to finally reclaim your dignity, your voice, and your freedom without selling out your soul. Here's what often happens after someone wakes up to the truth. They swing too far in the opposite direction. They've spent years being the nice one, the one who bends, who sacrifices, who tolerates. Then suddenly, they flip, they think, I've had enough, and decide the only way to survive is to become cold, hard, detached. They armor up. That's the rebound effect. After living as someone who gets walked on, you assume your only escape is to become someone who walks over others. But that's just another trap. Because when you abandon your essence, you're not freeing yourself, you're just reacting to the pain. You're still being controlled. Not by others this time, but by your own fear. Real power isn't found in becoming the opposite of who you were. It's found in becoming whole. It's about acting from clarity, not from wounds. It's not about being good or bad. It's about being real, being grounded, being someone who knows who they are and refuses to apologize for it. So how do you stop being the nice person everyone uses without turning into someone bitter, cynical, or fake? First, You need to understand something very simple, but deeply powerful. Your voice matters. You've been trained to think that speaking up is selfish, that saying no makes you difficult, that setting boundaries makes you a bad person. But that's all a lie. What's truly selfish is expecting you to live in silence while everyone else gets to speak freely. To expect you to keep bending while they stay rigid. That is selfish. Speaking up, that's dignity. It's not about yelling. It's not about demanding attention. It's about standing in your truth, calmly and firmly, without asking for permission. Second, learn to say no, not defensively, not with 5 excuses, not with guilt, just no. A clean, quiet, non-negotiable no has more strength than an hour of explanations. It's not aggressive, it's sovereign. It tells people you have limits, and people with limits are respected. People without them, they're taken for granted. Third, pay close attention to the people who get uncomfortable when you change. That's your signal. When you start asserting yourself and someone tells you, you've changed. What they're really saying is, I liked it better when you were easier to control. Your growth disrupts the dynamics they were benefiting from. Don't let that shake you. That's not a sign to go back. It's a sign that you're finally stepping into your own power. Fourth, stop chasing understanding. Not everyone is going to get why you're changing. Not everyone is going to support your transformation, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for becoming more honest, more authentic, more yourself. Their confusion isn't your responsibility. Your loyalty belongs to your truth, to your peace, to your emotional well-being, not to the image others have of you. Fifth, and this might be the most important of all trade, the need for approval for commitment to authenticity. When you live authentically, you might upset a few people, but you'll attract the right ones. And more importantly, you'll attract yourself back. That's a kind of self-respect that nobody can take from you. Machiavelli didn't write to turn people into tyrants. He wrote to help them stop being naive. Because the greatest naivety in this world is believing that being nice is enough to earn respect. It's not. Not in politics, not in business, not in relationships, not in life. And yes, it takes guts to drop that old identity, to walk away from the pleaser, the fixer, the quiet one. It takes courage to show up as your full self, flawed, firm, real, and risk being misunderstood. But that's the price of freedom, because here's the truth. And I need you to really feel this. As long as you're performing kindness to avoid rejection, you are in a prison. As long as you're saying yes when you want to say no, you are betraying yourself. As long as you are trying to earn love by being small, quiet, agreeable, you are setting yourself up for a life of resentment and regret. So the question becomes, do you want to be loved or do you want to be free? Because the world won't give you both. Let's be brutally honest now. How much longer are you going to wear that mask? How many more years are you going to spend keeping the peace while sacrificing your own sanity? You think that's virtue? You think that makes you noble? It doesn't. That's self-erasure. That's living in a prison made of politeness and people-pleasing, a prison that rewards you for being harmless, predictable, and quiet. A cell built from fake compliments and shallow praise. But let's get real. No one's coming to save you. No one is going to suddenly realize how much you've given and say, thank you. You can stop now. As long as you make yourself available for exploitation, someone will be there to take advantage of it. That's not because people are evil. It's because people follow incentives. And if you're offering yourself up for free, without standards, without limits, then you're not going to be seen as valuable. You're going to be seen as useful. And when your usefulness runs out, so does their attention. So you've got two choices now. You can keep playing the nice guy, keep nodding, keep smiling, keep saying yes, keep pretending this is what being good looks like. Or you can wake up. You can decide that your kindness will no longer be a leash, that you'll start acting with intention, that you'll choose who gets your time, your energy, your love, not based on guilt, but based on alignment. You can stop giving what you don't receive. You can stop begging for approval. You can stop molding yourself into what others expect. Because the truth is, the world respects people who respect themselves. And you will never be truly free until you stop asking for permission to exist. So ask yourself, when was the last time you said no without guilt? When was the last time you made a decision just for you? When was the last time you stopped caring about how others would react and did what you knew was right for your own peace? Leave it in the comments. I want to hear about the moment you realized that being nice was actually hurting you. Because this isn't just your story. There are thousands of people living this same script, and your words might be the wake-up call they need. And if this video helped you see something clearly, if it lit a fire, shook your perspective, made you rethink your patterns, then don't stop here. Watch the next one. It's important. This journey isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started.